Yeah, so our podcast is about your journey in music and how you got to where you are today.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I did
Fire away.
see you're from the UK. Want to tell me a little bit about where you grew up?
Yeah, I'm from a place in the northeast of England, almost Scotland, really, called Sunderland, which is like the rival town to Sam Fender. So it's maybe 10 miles away from Newcastle, where that guy's from, and yeah, we don't have a lot to shout about at the moment, but but yeah, it's a nice little town with good people, and yeah, I grew up there and around university age, I went to Leeds College of Music, and then yeah, now I've ended up in London. I spend
Wow,
most of my time between London and Nashville now, so it's a
very
strange route for a boy from Sunderland.
yeah.
Mm.
You said the town, your rival town was Sam Fender was from there.
Yeah, yeah, it's Newcastle, like a football soccer thing. Sunderland and Newcastle are like deadly rivals.
That's funny. Well, how did you get into music?
Um, I, I've always I had an uncle who used to like sing in bars and clubs and things, and he bought me myself and my sister like a karaoke machine when we were like age 5 or 6, and he used to
Hmm.
like burn these CDs with the latest songs that we wanted to sing on there, um, and and then it progressed from there. It started with just singing, and then when I was about 8 years old, maybe nine, my music teacher at school did this assembly where they played a classical piece on piano, and I'd never seen anyone. I don't think I'd ever seen anyone, or at least never really focused in on anyone playing an instrument in front of me before. And
Hmm.
I think I was sat like somewhere towards the front, and I just was transfixed. And I remember kind of running home excited and just asking my parents for a piano as though it was like a toy car or something. And they were like, no. So I just bugged them for months and months, and they realized it wasn't going to go away. They got me a cheap keyboard, and I used to play on that, but it's difficult to learn on a little Casio keyboard where the drum beat keeps kicking in every 2 seconds and
Hmm.
putting you off. um, so yeah, eventually they got me this rickety old piano, and I used to just sit there, kind of trying to make nice noises on it for hours and hours every night until my dad, whichever program my dad wanted to watch, would come on TV, and he'd have to kind of boot me off so he could watch TV.
Did you ever take lessons, or was it mainly just learning
Uh,
on your own?
it started off with these books called The Complete Piano Player, which were like
Okay.
When the Saints Go Marching In, and then they progressed to like Super Trooper by ABBA, stuff like that. It was like it wasn't the classical route, but I started self teaching, and then there was a lady across the road who would charge my mum like £3 for like a half an hour lesson, and she would just kind of teach me what she knew.
Hmm.
So yeah, not like massively formal training, but I had some guidance,
Hmm.
and it always has seemed to work like that for me with everything until I got to university. Because I mean, when I picked up guitar, I went to like a group lesson that was free for the community, and it was like 30 or 40 people in the class, and I just
Hmm.
kind of you would just kind of get the guy's attention when you could and try and follow along. Um,
Sure. How
yeah,
old are you when you when you took that guitar class?
like 14 maybe.
Okay.
14 or 15, like early teenager, just learning Wonderwall by Oasis, and it's
Sure.
the easiest songs around, but like, yeah, the hits.
Right, right. That's funny. Well, when did you start performing and writing your own songs?
I wrote my very first song. My dad has always kind of loved singer-songwriters and like real great songwriters like Leonard Cohen and John
Hmm.
Lennon and Joni Mitchell and things like that. So it always seemed really daunting to write a song, but it also felt like the that was the route. Like that's the only route. Like there's no X Factor or Pop Idol route. It's the route is write your own music, and like actually if you're going to sing, then express something, have an opinion, and show your lens on the world. And so yeah, it took me a while to write my first song, I think, because I put it on this pedestal. um,
Hmm.
but eventually I my first girlfriend kind of broke up with me, and I sat there with my acoustic guitar and wrote this song called a song called Canadian Friend, which was she had a Canadian friend who God, what am I doing? She had a Canadian friend who I was jealous of as like a 15 or 16-year-old, and
Uh,
and yeah, I always I always knew I didn't like your Canadian friend or something, and then it was like the refrain for the chorus was like just say you're sorry. So it was just like it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible, and it came on shuffle on my iPhone. It's just obviously still there in my iTunes library somewhere. And it came on the other day, yeah, and I had a big old cringe to it. But yeah, I think the lesson though was write terrible songs until you can write good ones, really.
Sure, sure. I've heard
Get
that
them out, you know.
before. Get them all out. Keep
Yeah,
writing as many bad songs as you can until you write a good one.
exactly. And also an important lesson as well for any songwriters or aspiring songwriters listening is just bear in mind that all the songwriters that you admire were terrible ones, and that's a myth that is a myth that is perpetuated in kind of this industry, is that like certain people are born just able to write these incredible songs, and I don't buy it. You
Right, right.
gotta
Paul
get
McCartney
through.
didn't just wake up and start writing every Beatles hit ever.
Exactly.
You said you went to school for music. Tell me about that. How did you get in? Was there like an auditioning process to that?
Yeah, well, I took the music production route.
Okay.
I at first, so college in the UK is like age 16 to 18, so it would be like
Hmm.
your last couple of years of high school, right?
Hmm.
Um, and so you finish what we would consider high school at age 16, then you go to college for a couple of years, and then you decide on what your degree is going to be, and that is our university, which is what you would call college. And
Hmm.
yeah, I went to our college at age 16 with like these sensible plans to study law, psychology, history, and computing, I think, which is like IT. And I
Hmm.
did that for 2 years and didn't do too well because I hated it. I did okay. I kind of passed, but I was always in the music department. I was friends with everyone in the music department, and I would like go in and sing on songs for them, and sit and play on the pianos when I could. And so that became my kind of extracurricular place to hang out. And when it came to choosing what to do at university, I didn't see my life in any of those other pursuits. Like all I was interested in was music. So I
Hmm.
stayed for another year, and I did music and music performance, which was just 7 days a week. Well, 5 days a week in college, and then I was in bands and rehearsals and stuff for the other two.
Hmm.
7 days a week music, and it just the second that I allowed myself to follow that, I just knew that was what I wanted to do. So yeah, I went to Leeds College of Music, and studied music production,
Hmm.
with the plan of performing in bands outside of college and learning all the things that I couldn't teach myself while I was
Hmm.
in college, or in university. So yeah, so I did that for 3 years and got my music production degree. I worked in studios, did internships, and then I would busk on the street to kind of like pay my way through.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, you'd see me if you lived in Leeds, England. You'd see me like every weekend playing Kings of Leon covers and in amongst my own songs, on the high street. Whenever it wasn't raining, I would just stand there for hours and hours on a weekend and just play with my little battery powered Roland amp. And yeah, I got like two educations. I got like this hard, grizzly kind of musician of the streets education, and then I got this
Sure.
university level kind of fancy education in production as well.
Yeah. You said you were in bands while you're going to college and university?
Yeah, I mean, I had my own band, where it was. I mean, it was just under my own name, just under Matt Belmont, and I would do a kind of folk singer songwriter stuff. And then we we also had like a couple of like wedding function bands and stuff going. So
Okay.
we would just like put our adverts online and learn whatever they wanted us to learn and play some like Luther Vandross and all that kind of stuff, which is like it's I mean it wasn't the dream back then, but it was a lot of fun playing with my friends and learning those songs and also just playing like nothing but hits, which I think is
Right. Yeah.
really helpful as a songwriter, you know, you kind of learn you it must go in, you know. If all you
Sh-
play is hits, then it comes out the other end and not the other end, God, it comes out later,
right.
as in your songwriting. I think you absorb it and it helps.
Hmm. And when did you decide to start Bell like your solo project
Yeah,
and
with
like really
Belmont, it
start
was
going this?
yeah. So I released this first EP with that folk singer songwriter thing. I pushed that for a couple of years, and I
Was that volume one or something different?
no, this was just it was just my first kind
Oh
of
yeah, you're just first and last
singer
name. Sorry.
songwriter foray out. Yeah, it was.
Gotcha.
It did pretty well on like iTunes singer songwriter chart and stuff. So I kind of convinced myself that it was the right route, and then I recorded back to it, and I was just like self-producing it, and I was just like, this isn't what I want. Like this isn't the sound. This isn't. If someone played this to me, I wouldn't be particularly impressed. It's not like I'm not writing music that I love.
Mm-hmm.
So I took a break for about a year and just would write with other artists. I ran an open mic night. This is when I first moved to London, and I would write with artists that I admired from that open mic night who would come through the doors, like voices that I loved and all different styles, and just try and like learn my trade and my craft as a songwriter, pick up little tricks from everyone. And after about a year, I got really kind of hungry to write these songs that I had little lyric ideas and little melodies for, written in my little notepad or like on my phone. Um, and I took a trip down to France to this house that some friends had just bought, which was kind of this big like French kind of chateau, but like very dilapidated at the time. Like they were just renovating it, and drove down and took a keyboard and a laptop and a microphone and just started kind of doing my little Bon Iver time.
Okay.
and and yeah, just spent some time down there, just singing into reverb and creating songs and yeah, my surname is Belmont, and I was looking over this beautiful mountain view every day and going on walks and stuff, and it just clicked this like Belmont, which is Belle space MT, so like Belmont, beautiful mountain,
Hmm.
um, and I was creating this epic sound at the same time, and it just all kind of clicked. Like this is what I want, and I don't necessarily just want it to be a solo project. I want it to be like a collaborative thing with like a bit of a band at times. Sometimes I'll show up on my own. Sometimes we'll do full band things. Sometimes it can be this epic thing with maybe like a strings. I want to be bound by like, are you just another guy with a guitar, or are you
Hmm.
just you always with a band? You know, so yeah, I came up with that whole thing there, and shortly after, I got this message from Nashville from Femke, who is my producer, and she'd heard a song that I'd written in that year where I was writing with anyone and everyone.
Hmm.
She'd heard it on a playlist, like a private SoundCloud playlist, and like loved my voice and sound, and asked if I wanted to come over and work together. So I went over there, and we just hit it off straight away, and have written some really good stuff together, and like some of my favorite stuff together anyway, and come up with this whole kind of project to date, really,
Hmm.
as far as like production wise. So yeah, it was meant to be a
Wow.
really slow burn, but then the first song came out, and like the reception blew us away, and that followed, which is the song that's
Yeah.
now on alt radio in the US, which is kind of yeah,
Yeah.
that's
It's massive.
big dreams
Ma-
for me. Yeah.
Sure. Wow. Okay. So they find your producer finds your song. You don't even know how she found it online.
I do, yeah. So the girl that I'd co-written this song with, I co-wrote it with two girls from London. A girl called Jessica Sharman, who I still
Hmm.
work with a lot, and another girl called Mary Erskine. And Mary went on her honeymoon to Nashville, and she was a working. She was a very busy songwriter at the time, and when she was even though she was on her honeymoon, she was like, I'm in Nashville, I want to do co-writes. So she found some people she wanted to work with, producers and songwriters, and sent an email around to a bunch of them with this like short playlist of here are some songs that I've written, co-written on. Um, I'd love to work with you. And one of those songwriter producers was Femke, who was out of town, but took a listen anyway. And yeah, it was very serendipitous actually. But I guess it's a case of, I mean, I wrote like hundreds of songs in that time, so they like one of them's gonna find itself somewhere, you know.
Sure.
Plant enough
Sure.
seeds.
One of them will land.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So you come out to Nashville. Had you ever been to the United States before?
I've been to Florida as a child to Disneyland.
I was gonna say some Disney World.
Yeah, a little bit of Disneyland. And I'd been to Boston. My my parents moved to Toronto maybe 10, maybe 8 years before I was born, and they stayed there for a couple of years. And then my dad was a journalist, and he worked for like the
Oh
Canadian
wow.
news. Um, and then they both moved back over to England. So I hadn't lived there, but when they moved over, the whole of my dad's side of his family also moved over at the same time, and they all stayed out there.
Hmm.
So I spent a lot of my youth kind of going back and forth to Toronto. And when we went to Toronto, we'd go to like, we'd drive over to like Buffalo, and then, or we'd drive over to Boston. We drove down, which was a long drive.
Hmm.
So there was a few little expeditions into America. It always, I mean, it had always been kind of in my dreams to come over there and do something over there. It's like it's the
Yeah.
biggest you can go, right? So I've always kind of believed in shooting for the for the
First,
biggest for the
yeah.
prize.
Right, right. And then you make it out to Nashville, which is like the songwriting mecca of it
Yeah.
all. So that's amazing. And then so you come out, you write. So Hollow is the first song that you guys put out
hmm
together. Oh wow! And is that what attracted the attention of Warner? Like, how did that relationship form?
It started initially. So Hollow came out, and we didn't know. We expect, like I said before, we expected a really like a slow build, and we thought if we keep doing good stuff, it'll collect more and more attention, and hopefully
Hmm.
we'll reach the people that we're trying to reach, like the music fans we're trying to reach, and make those connections. But yeah, day one looked on. I remember it coming out and looking on New Music Friday UK, and just thinking, oh well, it's not on there. Okay, well maybe next time. And then getting a text like 5, 6 hours later when Femke woke up and she said, it's on New Music Friday US, which is like that playlist is like almost
Yeah.
10 times the size. So yeah, we were like freaking out over that. And then it just got a lot of playlist support by Spotify. We did a Mahogany session. Have you heard of Mahogany sessions?
I haven't. No.
It's a great live music discovery platform.
Okay.
This amazing video crew in the UK, based out of London, who find beautiful locations and they film and capture the performance really really well, edit it
Hmm.
really beautifully. So we did a Mahogany session, and that went out to all of their subscribers, which was like 500,000 subscribers. And
Wow.
one of the subscribers was a guy who worked at my now management company, and he took me into to the head of the management company, Bruce, who's now my manager, and yeah, and just said check these guys out. So Triple Eight Management, as they were called, were when Bruce came on board there, that was like a big thing. Like he, as far as finding the connection to Warner and Warner Chappell and this whole team that we've built, um, yeah, Bruce was like pivotal in that. Actually, that was a because it was so DIY, and it was so me and like Femke was kind of like at the time, like she's my producer, but she was doing like a bit of a management role, you know, and like she's
Hmm.
just like relentless. She just will bang down doors, you know. And so none of us knew what we were doing, but she would just
Sure.
wouldn't give up. So between us, we managed to open a lot of doors we shouldn't have been able to open. But we did hit a ceiling, you know. And
Hmm.
there's a time where even if the music is good and even if the sound is good and it's doing well, those big kind of partners, so to speak, they
Hmm.
want to know like who else is invested, like who else believes in this, and what is their track record. So to have this manager come on board who had just come off the back of the success of Kaleo, and
Oh wow.
was
Yeah.
just releasing Ruston Kelly and people like that, was suddenly that was it legitimized us a little bit, I think.
Right.
Um,
Wow.
so yeah, so all those jigsaw pieces, they took a long time to fall into place, a good couple of years.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think they've fallen into the right places. Like I'm really happy with the team. You know, it's a bit scary bringing on big industry. You know, it's
Sure.
because it's
Right.
big companies, and they aren't all big evil companies like they're
Right.
made out to be. They're just a bunch of people working together, and obviously they have every shade of good and bad. So across the experience spectrum of like the artists have had with them, and you can pick any company and say that, but it's so much about the people that you work at a company and feeling out who's going to be on my team, you know. Like it's so easy
Hmm.
to get blinded by like record deal. I've always wanted one of those, but but yeah, we took a long time. I took a long time feeling out like, well, who's going to be on the project and what have they done
Right.
before, and like, can I talk to them? Can I have Zoom calls with them? Can I have multiple phone calls? Can I meet them in person before? Like, I mean, I'd met everyone in person before I signed anything, even though it meant flying to LA and back and whatever. And it was just sometimes you'd meet with someone and they'd be great, but it didn't feel like they fully got it, so you wouldn't go with them. And then you'd meet with someone else, and you could just hear the enthusiasm in their voice if they have it.
Right, right, yeah. And
So
you
yeah,
found the people.
I believe so. It's early days, but yeah, I feel good about
Yeah.
them right now.
Very, very, very cool. So Hollow's out. It's crushing on streams and everything else. It's on alt radio here in the States. Are you working on a full record with Warner to put out?
We've because it took a while for the whole team to fall into place. In that time, I mean, I wrote a couple of records worth of stuff.
Yeah, you had like a
So,
volume 1 EP that had came out right prior
yeah,
to. Okay.
yeah, that had come out. That gradually came out, and then we released a couple of singles like in the interim, just to because I was desperate to put stuff out and give people some like who kind of bought into the project and believed in
Hmm.
it something to listen to. I felt pretty bad about not releasing for so long, but yeah, we're at the minute we're just finishing up an EP, um, which should I mean that's I don't I mean I can say it, it's fine, but yeah, that'll be up by the end of the year. So yeah,
Very.
giant news scoop there for you, world exclusive.
I love it.
It's going to
Um,
be going crazy on the tabloids tomorrow. But but yeah, we got so we got that, and I'm very excited about the songs on there. The first one comes out called "This Kind of Heavy,"
mhm.
and it just feels like the most 2020 song I could possibly put out. It's got a heavy lyric and it's a heavy year, but yeah, we got Hollow on radio and then that and then a bunch of other songs that I'm really happy about.
Very, very cool. That's exciting. What about how has like COVID or has that affected your plan at all? Like, were you playing shows and having to stop, or were you recording a record and you know?
Uh, yeah, so the year was mapped out with so it was April record full album, and then kind of work on the productions and the mixes of that between April and July, and then July
Mhm.
1st begin a US support tour, well, across the US and Canada with Kaleo, who we've
Oh wow.
supported a few times before. But yeah, that was all like, I mean, that they were leveling up their whole audience size, so that was like getting us in rooms of like 5 to 10,000 people, like Red Rocks amphitheater and stuff.
Oh wow,
Um,
that's cool. You get to play there.
yeah,
I've always wanted to go.
The
I
Greek theater, all of that, like
oh,
just like
wow.
places, just bucket list venues. Um, and then coming off that into UK and Europe, but obviously none of that happened. Like it all got cancelled. So
Uh-huh.
so yeah, we I've had a lovely rest
Yeah, totally.
instead. um,
What
yeah,
about
we got
live streams? Have you done a lot of that or?
yeah, I did. So when all this happened, obviously this whole live stream thing was kicking off because it was just like it was the only way anyone could do anything like to reach their
Right.
fans
Hmm.
and continue some kind of relationship of performance. But I'd never done it really before, so I watched it happen for a couple of weeks, and then I had a conversation with Rachel from my management. Basically, decided that I would live stream, but I mean, this might tell you something about but I do like a 12-hour live stream instead.
Like,
Instead of just like testing the waters and testing the equipment, I was like, nope. I just if I'm gonna do it, I might as well do it. Did I say yeah 12 hours? Did I say 10? It was 12.
no, 12. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
12.
you were live for 12 hours?
Yeah, I was like, well, let's like go hard or go home, which is just, I mean, it was so stupid, really, because it was, I don't know, it was a stressful. I said I'll do it next week, so it was like a stressful week of just like how do people live stream? How do they simultaneously live stream to YouTube and Instagram? How on earth do you fill 12 hours with content? Um, so I just like
Don't most be real quick. Don't most people just go on real quick and play like a couple songs?
exactly they do like one song or two songs and then
So
go.
why did you decide to go 12 hours?
I just wanted to be different. But I was like, well, let's make it like a fundraiser. Let's like raise money.
Okay.
I know a bunch of like lighting technicians and sound engineers and like session musicians who are really struggling right now. So let's find some like fundraising bodies for those. So we found Help Musicians in the UK and Music Cares in the US, and we just had like a GoFundMe going the whole time.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
just the fact that it was such a like ridiculous thing to announce. I'm going to be live streaming for the first time ever for 12 hours on like Sunday, um, 2 p.m. till 2 a.m. in my time. It just got a bunch of attention from fans, and suddenly they were like, "I want to see what happens." So people would drop in and out all day. But the way we did it is we arranged one guest an hour
Oh, okay.
from like my musical network of who I've worked with,
Hmm.
um, and some people. Corn, who was my the videographer that I worked closely with, who was my friend when I was like 11, and
Wow.
we like go and like play in the park together and stuff, and now he's turned into this great videographer. So we work together a lot. So we had him come in, and it was just so it would be people that you didn't know like from behind the scenes, but he's just such an eccentric, like charismatic person that was like great. And then it would
Hmm.
be like next up is John Paul White from the Civil Wars, who I did like a songwriting session with maybe a month before, who was amazing to come on. And it was just
Hmm.
like you'd get like half an hour of John Paul White wisdom, and then it would be
Wow.
like Greg Holden, who's like another songwriter based in LA. And he would like he was sitting in his garage like repairing his motorbike while he was doing that. So it just became this
So
like
cool.
really random thing. And then I had a
Yeah.
whole bunch of like other things lined up to fit. Like I played some music as well, and had a whole bunch of other things lined up, but I didn't get to a lot of them because the interviews were just so fun and they lasted so long. And yeah, before I knew it, it was 2 a.m. and I was delirious. And it was like taking a VR headset off because I just like logged off the live stream and was like, "Oh my god, did that just what just happened? What just happened? Where am I?" And yeah, I was quite drunk as well at the time.
That's
So
awesome. Wait, what a way to like go out on the live stream. Yeah, I'm just gonna do 12 hours. Like that's cool that you made it like an event though. I thought you were saying that you're like, I'm gonna go live and then you just hit it live and we're spending an hour trying to figure it out and like go like you just let it run. I'm like, oh,
yeah,
that's hilarious. But
it's
that's
so
good that you had a
dangerous though.
plan.
Yeah, I did have a plan. I mean, I had to have a plan. That's the thing. If you set yourself these, you just push yourself out of your comfort zone, then you have to meet the challenge or fail and fall flat on your face, one or the other. And it's a
Sure.
risk, but if you meet the challenges, I mean, that's beyond anything else. It was just like it's such a good memory.
Hmm. That's
Beyond like
amazing.
we raised a bit of money. I think we raised like $1,000 um, for the charities and stuff, and that was cool. Like it
That's
gave it
cool.
some meaning
Yeah.
and purpose. But but it was just it's a great memory, and I'm so glad I did it. And whenever anyone was like, "Hey, you need to start live streaming," I could always say, "Well, I did 12 hours. I don't need to do any more."
Yeah, exactly. I give my fans 12 hours. I think I'm okay for a while.
Exactly, they got it all in one
That's
go.
funny. Well, Matthew, thank you so much, man, for talking with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so
I
much.
do have one more question. I know that you did actually kind of address it earlier. My last question is always if you have any advice for aspiring artists. I know you kind of dropped that gem earlier, but I don't know if you have another piece of advice you'd want to share.
Uh, yeah, I mean, I would. What I said earlier about kind of it, it's easier said than done about just writing stuff until the good stuff comes. It's like
Hmm.
the my biggest struggle as a writer is is against my own kind of like anxiety and perfectionism, like to get heavy for a minute. But it's really hard, you know. It's so easy, so much easier to just listen to the last thing you did and like give yourself a high five than like get through the tough part of the next thing. But I think it just is easier to hear other people talk about the fact that they're in the same boat and like hear that normalized because yeah, it is any kind of creation. It's very difficult to get through that gap between what you want to have as an end product and what it takes to get there. Whether
Hmm.
that's like becoming good enough on an instrument and the practice gap, or whether it literally is the first half an hour of a production versus like 2 weeks later in my case when I like labor over something. It's I just my advice would be kind of persevere um, and have a voice, like know what you're going to say. Like I guess that's just really important to me that the songs I'm seeing something in the songs. It's not. I guess it's not. Some people want to write just like really fun music with throwaway lyrics, and that's like totally valid too. Like it's very uplifting for people and it's an escape. But for me, like, to do what I do, I need to know what I'm saying, and I need to know what my message is, and I need to like put apart, like live my life and feel every feeling, and then put that all in the music. Um, so yeah, I would just say write down your life really. Like I heard Ricky Gervais, the comedian, speak about writing comedy, and he always says like he does his very best stuff when he writes about what he knows. He writes comedy from his own life, like the funny things and the sad things. He puts it all in there, and I totally live by that philosophy with songwriting. I want to be able to tell you what every line's about, and whatever every metaphor is a metaphor for. Um, yeah, I don't know if that's advice, but it's a little. That's how I do it. Bringing it backward.